Hey guys, everybody knows that deadlift is a great exercise, but does that mean that you need to deadlift? Just like everything else, there's two sides to every story. Stick around, find out what your coach is not teaching you. Guys, first thing you have to do is figure out whether or not the deadlift is right for you. It's not for everybody. We know that the lift is great. We know that it is one of the most functional lifts out there and that it has the greatest effect on your overall metabolic rate because of the amount of muscles that it includes per one lift and the amount of calories that it burns. But what most people are not talking about is the fact that weight training is also the leading cause of low back pain. In my opinion, the deadlift is probably the most overprescribed lift out of any lift for people that are just not ready for it. Our spinal system is not necessarily meant to be a load-bearing system, okay? And when you're lifting a lot of weight, there's a lot of potential risk that you're taking. Let's take a quick example. Let's take the average male and say that he weighs 200 pounds just for easy math. When that average male lifts 25% of his weight, which is 50 pounds, that means he needs 4 times his body weight, which is 800 pounds of muscular contraction force in order to lift the weight. That means that his erector spinae muscles have to produce 800 pounds of force in order to create extension. Okay, this is a tremendous amount of force that most people don't realize. People are lifting much heavier weights than 50 pounds in the deadlift. I'm not telling you not to deadlift because at some point in time, it's a goal of mine to get every one of my clients to deadlift as well, but I do believe it's something that you need to work up to and something that you need to earn. The issue that I have is that I see a lot of coaches initiate training with the deadlift, and it's a good chance that you're going to get your client injured because they're not ready for it. It's important in the deadlift to have a neutral spine. That means that each vertebral body is stacked over each other perfectly. If during the deadlift you lose that neutral spine, there's a good chance that you're pushing that disc either posterior or anterior and creating disc degeneration. This is something that we'll go over more in the future. So if it's a goal of yours to start deadlifting, the first thing you have to do is to determine not whether you have an injury or whether you have really low back pain. It's not true just to believe that if you have low back pain, that means you have poor extensor strength. That is not always the case. It could be, but a lot of times it's many other things. Maybe it's poor length tension relationships. It could be poor core dysfunction, and maybe you don't have the ability to activate your transversus abdominis or your lower abdominals to stabilize the pelvis. It could be an actual back injury. It could be a bulging disc or a torn ligament down there. So that's number one. Determine whether or not you have a pre-existing injury. Second, figure out whether or not the deadlift is something that you want to learn, whether you're willing to invest the time to learn it properly, and hopefully whether you have a coach that can teach you properly. Because, like I said, with great risk comes great reward, and it's not the only exercise that can help develop your posterior strength or your extensor strength. There's hundreds out there. It is not a must-have lift. Okay, there is no such thing as a must-have lift. There's only lifts that are right for the individual person. So guys, all you gotta do is decide whether the lift is right for you. All right, thanks for joining us today. All right, next week, you got part 2, all right, where I'm gonna give you the 5 prereqs that every one of my clients need to pass before they deadlift. Thanks for joining us. All right, hopefully you're a little bit closer to learning how to thrive. Peace.